You're listening to this week's instalment of Lydia McCormack's podcast. Today, I'm discussing how the BBC are increasingly using social media in their news reports and how it has become progressively easier to gain content for news stories via these networks. Later on, I'll be asking a university student her view on the subject. Balagunon states how journalists associate the emergence of social media within the BBC news reports began following the devastating Asian tsunami back in 2004. Despite the creation of Facebook only happening that year, and Twitter wouldn't emerge for another 2 years. She explains how citizens took pictures on their mobile phones and used the email function on these devices to send photos to the BBC. At the time, this seemed to be the easiest and cheapest way the eyewitnesses could share their grief and experiences with the rest of the world to make everyone aware of how bad the devastation was. However, due to the development of technology and social media networks growing and growing, the way news is produced and distributed is faster than ever before and often takes place on several platforms at once. So, why did the BBC use social media in their news reports? Well, BBC News used Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube and Tumblr to alert people of current events happening in their local town, as well as news from all over the world. People are able to receive instant alerts on their phone, delivering breaking news alerts and developments on major stories. The 2008 Mumbai terror attacks is one of the first major news events where the BBC realised the best way to receive information to cover this attack was via people sharing live updates on social media accounts, especially Twitter. Hashtags have become increasingly popular and important because on the day of the Mumbai attacks, people were able to hashtag Mumbai. From the help of fellow tweeters, they were able to locate where urgent help is needed, police activity that they are witnessing, and the health status of their family and friends. Not only were the BBC tweeting about the events live as they unfolded, they were writing news articles on it and broadcasting it live on TV, allowing people to stay up to date with the attacks on many platforms. One way to gain access to all of the information of the Mumbai attacks was the webpage As It Happened. The BBC created this to provide news, analysis, description and comments on breaking news stories as the events unfolded and the story developed. The webpage included pictures, videos, tweets, blogs, voice clips and feeds from other news organisations. It was a great way to receive all of the information in one place rather than constantly switching from Twitter to Facebook to YouTube. Not only do the BBC use social media within their news reports, but they also have several Twitter accounts for their most popular television shows, including BBC Breakfast, Sunday Politics, Newsnight and Question Time, to connect and update their fans of the schedule and guest appearances. However, there are some problems with the BBC using content from Twitter or Facebook, because not all of it can be truthful or reliable. Newman looked into a series of tweets over the period of 2 days and found out some information reported on there was in fact false. He explains how 3 million people were reported to have protested in Tehran. However, independent assessments suggested the final numbers were a few 100,000, and the former Prime Minister of Iran was reportedly under house arrest, when in fact he was just being watched. In a way, it's like a game of Chinese whispers, as information can change when being thrown around these social networking sites, with people adding and missing out vital information. If the BBC broadcasts a news story basing all their facts from social media, there is a risk that it could have a negative impact on the BBC's reputation if it is to be proved as false information. People may no longer see the BBC as a reliable source for news. However, to prevent this from happening, since 2012, BBC editors instructed their journalists not to break stories on Twitter before talking to their newsroom colleagues first, in order to confirm that the information they have is accurate, factual and reliable. I have asked a university student about her view on the BBC using social media for their news reports.
I really like the way that social media is incorporated within the news nowadays. It gives a chance for people like me who are university students who don't get the opportunity to watch actual news shows to be able to know about the news and to keep up to date. I like the fact that they use a lot of hashtags because it means that I can see what's going on in the news and see other people's opinions and put my own opinion in as well. It keeps me up to date.
So social media is a great way for BBC News to reach, notify and update people all around the world of current events that are taking place, both positive and negative. It's also a great source of content to gain access to pictures and videos. However, not all of the information on these networks are reliable and the BBC are aware of this and do not cover any event until they know the facts. In some cases, people may even be aware of events before they watch BBC News on the TV, due to the alerts on their phones and checking the trending topics on Twitter. As the BBC is one of the leading public service broadcasters, it is their duty to inform their audiences on the current affairs happening in the world on TV, radio and online. It has never been easier to connect with millions of people all over the world. I'm afraid that's all we have time for today. Thank you for listening and don't forget to tune in next week. Bye for now.